before we went really, really hard.
What the are you talking about? All right, what's up, guys? We're back with some fresh Ben Shapiro slop, fresh off the press. Let's see what he's talking about.
Well, as it turns out, the Iranian regime may be talking tough while negotiating their own disarmament with President Trump. On Monday morning, President Trump put out a statement suggesting, quote, all outstanding issues were close to being resolved with Iran through back-channel negotiations. He put out the statement, quote, all caps, I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I've instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, again, he is only pledging that there will be no hits on the power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period. All the rest of the strikes will continue. So it could have been that President Trump's original statement that came out, again, Saturday morning on power stations may have been a negotiating tactic to up the ante. So what would a negotiated outcome look like? Well, according to Barak Ravid over at Axios, the administration has set out 6 terms. 1, no missile program for 5 years. 2, zero uranium enrichment. 3, decommissioning the nuclear reactors at Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow. 4, strict outside observation protocols around centrifuges. 5, arms control treaties with regional countries, including a missile cap of 1,000. And 6, no financing of proxies. Now, I will admit, to me, this sounds fanciful. Iran is currently saying that they want a permanent ceasefire, right? A commitment never to renew attacks and also reparations for damage done, like we're going to pay them. And they've said repeatedly in the past they will not commit to ending their nuclear program. And I will say,
because they're a sovereign nation who shouldn't have to be forced to give up their nuclear program. And their nuclear program, which they've said repeatedly, isn't to build nuclear weapons, is to build nuclear facilities to help power their nation.
Say that these conditions appear under-inclusive on their face. There are other nuclear facilities outside of Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow, including, for example, Pickaxe Mountain. It would require American inspectors on the ground to truly ensure centrifuge monitoring and arms control monitoring as well, like who's actually going to testify that Iran is keeping its commitments. And if anyone believes the Iranian government is going to be bound by some sort of arms control treaty, including a missile cap of 1,000, that sounds, again, delusional to me. Iran has already fired approximately 600 missiles in the last 3 weeks. And again, their entire strategy relies on being able to overpower air defenses because the vast majority of those have been shot down. Well, as of this morning, the Iranian Foreign Ministry was denying negotiations altogether. So while the president is saying the negotiations are ongoing, the Iranian Foreign Ministry is saying that's not true. So you have to decide who to believe. They're claiming they backed President Trump down, which seems doubtful. Quote, we deny the statements of U.S. President Donald Trump regarding the negotiations taking place between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran maintains its positions against any negotiation before Iran achieves its war objectives. Now, my sources suggest that negotiations have, in fact, been taking place. The Iranians claiming that the negotiations are not taking place and that they back Trump off the ball, that seems like an unwise approach. Now, there are some other possibilities here. It is possible that President Trump is announcing diplomatic efforts in order to show the American people that he's availing himself of all options. So if he has to go even harder, they'll understand he tried to talk this through with the Iranians before we went really, really hard.
What the fuck are you talking about? If he has to go even harder, the American people didn't even want this war to begin with. So him acting like, oh, well, you know, we tried to negotiate, but they didn't want to negotiate, so we had to go even harder and start blowing up. We had to level everything. We had to turn Iran and we had to turn Tehran into the next Gaza because they didn't negotiate with us. So, hey, guys, we tried. American people, we tried. You know, this is why we need the extra $200 billion we were asking for, because it costs money to kill bad guys. Fuck off, bro. This is unbelievable, man. I don't understand what the fuck this guy's saying.
So say before we take Harg Island, he's showing we tried to talk it through and then we had to do what we had to do. And the most likely reality, of course, is that President Trump put out the statement because he wants to signal to the markets that there will be an end to the war at some point in the fairly near future, and he wants the price of oil to drop. After all, this is exactly what happened last week. You remember, Israel struck an Iranian gas field, South Pars, and America did approve of it, and then the price of oil spiked, and so President Trump said the Israelis did it on their own, and that this wouldn't happen again, and then the price went down again. Well, the same thing happened right here. Immediately upon announcing the postponement of those strikes on energy plants, the price of Brent crude dropped from near $110 a barrel to below $100 a barrel. This is the balancing act the administration is trying to play here. They want the Iranian regime to be defenestrated. At the same time, they want to keep the oil prices as low as possible in order to maintain public support for the action. The Trump administration understands the American people will keep supporting what has to be done in Iran so long as it doesn't hit them too hard in the pocketbook.
Are you guys listening to what the fuck this guy's saying? Like, are you actually listening to what he's saying right now? The American people will support what's happening in Iran as long as it doesn't hit the pocketbooks of the American people. What are you talking about? The American people don't support the war in Iran. It's the most unpopular war in American history. Wow.
That would be the point, for example, of relieving certain sanctions in order to press down the oil prices. Because right now, the United States is talking about, believe it or not, relieving Iranian oil sanctions in order to allow them to ship oil out, continue to ship oil out, and keep the price of oil down. Here was Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, explaining the sanctions calculus to Kristen Welker at NBC.
If the point of the sanctions was to stop funding the Russian war machine, why is the administration effectively rewarding Russia now?
Again, Kristen, you're missing the point. Which is better? Does Russia get more money if oil goes to 150 and they get 70% of that, that's 105, or if oil stays below 100. So they're getting less money. Our analysis shows that the maximum extra amount that Russia could get would be $2 billion, which is 1 day of the Russian Federation's budget.
But understood, but they wouldn't have gotten any of that with the sanctions in place.
I don't know. Whoever's
but would they have gotten any of that in place?
Whoever does your research, you should get rid of.
Okay, so again, the Treasury Secretary is good at this. From the outside, I have to say this looks like a hard strategy to pull off. Every time the administration backs away from hard power in favor of some sort of temporary expedient on oil and gas prices, presumably that emboldens the Iranian regime to lever up the economic pain. If they feel like that is their leverage point, they will use it. Or it's possible that the people in the know, in the Trump administration or in Israel, know something that we don't, that Iran militarily is on its last legs. So it actually doesn't matter very much what they do, that if they have a little bit of extra money, that's not going to save them. So if we can keep the price of oil down while finishing them off, maybe that is the best possible solution. Meanwhile, there is hiding just out of sight the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that is the Iranian people. What happens when the people of Iran take to the streets in the aftermath of all this damage to the Iranian regime? Because make no mistake, that is going to happen. If Iranians took to the streets by the millions before all of this, in the face of the IRGC and Basij, killing them by the tens of thousands, what happens after the United States and Israel have killed all of Iran's top brass and they're hitting all of the field commanders of the Basij in the streets with individual suicide drones? Well, here's U.S. CENTCOM Chief Brad Cooper talking to the Iranian people saying, don't go yet.
First and foremost, we are attacking the regime in the Islamic Republic, not the wonderful people. The second piece is continue to heed our advice. We've had multiple messages that have come out that have said, beware, the government doesn't care about you. They're launching missiles and drones from populated areas. You need to stay inside for right now. Third, there will be a clear signal at some point, as the president has indicated, for you to be able to come out.
So what is the likely outcome here? Well, the range of outcomes runs from the pretty good to the excellent. Iran's missile and drone capabilities have already been largely destroyed. Its Air Force and its Navy are no longer existent. Its top regime figures are all dead. Even if the U.S. were to walk away right now, Iran would be so much weaker than they were even 1 month ago. But the best outcome, in my opinion, is still on the table. Keep slamming them. I think we ought to cut off their oil supply entirely by taking Kharg Island. Reopen the Strait of Hormuz by wreaking havoc on the coastal areas surrounding the strait.
Yeah, let's take Kharg Island by putting American troops, not Israeli troops. Let's go ahead and take a couple thousand American troops, right? Sons and daughters. Put them on Kharg Island and occupy that land off the coast of Iran. Yeah, that's the best strategy. Yeah, great planning there, Ben. Amazing.
Continue to destroy Iran's military hierarchy, open the way for a true domestic uprising. Sure, Iran could theoretically lash out in its death throes still further. Over the weekend, they apparently they activated some sort of terror cell in London to burn some Hatzalah vans. Hatzalah is a Jewish emergency medical services group So they activated one of their terror cells to burn some cars. The solution is not to leave the Iranian government in place to do all of this with greater power in the future, to develop more missiles, to redevelop its nuclear program when President Trump is not in the White House. That would be like arguing we ought not put down a rabid dog because, hey, it might bite us, ignoring the fact that if you leave the rabid dog alone, that's going to lead to a far greater spread of rabidity and far more damage. Well, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, I think, had an excellent take on all of this in short form on the All In podcast.
I believe that there's a reason we went to war, and I believe at the end of the war, Middle East will be more stable than before.
So why should we be optimistic about a positive outcome in Iran? Because, again, if you flip the table, assume for a second that Iran had been hitting the United States to the tune of killing the president, killing the vice president, killing our entire military infrastructure, destroying our entire missile arsenal, destroying our Air Force and our Navy, and we had basically been relegated to shutting off some of the waterways. Would that be a win or would that be an L? The reality is that 3 weeks of heavy bombing runs, completely unfettered by anything like an Iranian air defense, is not a win for Iran. It is, in fact, an L for Iran. And what happens next over the course of the next couple of years is going to tell the rest of the story. Well, in just 1 second, we'll get into the America lasters. First, the data are in. If you're not sleeping well...
Listen, guys, I'm going to stop it here. This is insane, man. This guy, he's a fucking charlatan. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, he's talking about Iran being a rabid dog, and he's using the analogy of putting down a rabid dog. The only rabid dog right now in the Middle East is the one country that seems to always want to bomb and invade other countries, right? You talk about Israel going out and bombing Iran. You talk about them trying to, invade and bomb Hezbollah and Lebanon and all this other shit. Look, the only rabid dog in the Middle East is the Israeli government. Not the people, obviously, the government. They're rabid and they're feral and they're doing whatever they can to drag us into a war, which they've done. They've succeeded. We're at full-scale war right now, right? But we're just shy of putting boots on the ground. Everything else is fair game. We're talking about striking we're talking about striking the energy facility in Iran, and we're talking about shutting off their power and all this other stuff. Everything just shy of dropping nukes and putting boots on the ground, we're already partaking in. And so this looks bad on America. I don't think we're doing a good job here. I don't think we're doing a service to the American people. And I don't think it's our job to ensure that the Middle East is stable. That's not our region. That's not our job. We're not the police of the world. We tried to be, but I think that's a terrible policy now. And we need to start focusing on what's going on in America and focusing on rebuilding strong allegiances with our allies in Europe and other places in the world, in Southeast Asia, all that stuff. But this stuff is crazy, man. Like it's disastrous for us. Israel has us in their pocket and they're using us, man. We're their big stick, right? We're their big stick and they're using the hell out of us, man. They got us doing all their dirty work. So it's really disgusting. Ben here dropped some fresh slop, so I wanted to react to it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Drop a like, drop a sub. I want to start building this community if we can. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.